everyone. Thanks so much for joining the final episode of our Inside Track series this year. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Max Blue Churchill. Max is an engineer, mix engineer, co-founder of the Trans Creative Collective, on the board of directors for Equality Engineering Brighton, and has been doing some amazing things for inclusivity and diversity in the music industry. Just before we get started, you can submit questions using the Q&A icon in the menu bar. And you can also submit questions on our social media channels, and the Avid team will send them through to us to answer at the end of the session. But I think I just saw Max pop up on screen there. Hi, Max, how are things?
Hi there, yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. You have a lovely background today. Are you in studio today?
I'm at Strongroom Studios. I'm actually currently sat in Studio 1. So it's pretty nice atmosphere in here right now.
Yeah, who did the artwork in Strongrooms, or was it loads of different people, was it?
I actually can't remember, and I know I'd be in so much trouble for that.
But, sorry, getting in trouble in the first question.
I'm terrible at names, that's the first thing. But yeah, it was all kind of done. It was all custom done, all in all of the rooms.
So cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, it's very loud.
Yeah, I hate when things feel real clinical in the studio, though. It kind of gives it a homely feel.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought we'd get started by talking a little bit about your background, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you always been into music since you were a kid?
I have. I mean, I have and I haven't in that. As a kid, I had like quite a few different hobbies and things. I was quite into sport and martial arts and things like that. But yeah, I guess like the music was kind of always something which I think, because I've always been quite like kind of sensitive to sounds and things like that. I've always been like super interested whenever I listen to music. I've always just kind of been like, how has this been done? Like, how is it made? So yeah, I've kind of, to be fair, as like far as I can remember back being like on holidays and things like that, I'd be stood by like the pool if there was like music coming out of a PA or something, just be like air drumming along or like air guitaring along. So I think I always had that kind of streak. Yeah.
And were you interested in all kinds of music, or did you have any specific artists that you were kind of into growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I was really into Jimi Hendrix from like quite a young age, but I think it's just like this kind of like, yeah, my parents were watching, like they used to watch a lot of like documentaries and stuff. So yeah, I kind of remember just seeing like Jimi Hendrix playing and like just all these crazy sounds coming out of the guitar, and I was just like, I just want to be able to do that and express myself in that way. But yeah, I guess like my dad was quite into like Human League and a lot of kind of like 80s bands and like Japan, and then my mum was kind of more into like kind of dance and disco kind of yeah, sounds of sort of like Boney M and stuff like that.
Oh, amazing.
Quite different, but
that's quite impressive. I was listening to Westlife when I was a kid.
Yeah, nice.
You've got a nice education going straight away.
Yeah.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from the Isle of Wight, so yeah.
And was the music scene pumping in the Isle of Wight like where I'm from, or was it quite quiet?
To be fair, it was quite sort of, it was very like singer-songwritery. So it'd be like yeah, singer-songwriters really. You'd have the occasional metal band or like indie rock band. But it's funny really, because as I was leaving the Isle of Wight, like more and more bands were kind of like exploring hybrid setups, and having like the kind of more like laptop on stage. Maybe they have a bit of like Ableton running or some like sample pads and things. So I kind of felt like I was leaving at a time. I was like, oh, I'm kind of into this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was also sort of drawn to London, and kind of just the whole bigger picture kind of appealed to me. So I kind of wanted to do that and go to London.
At what age did you decide, okay, I'm off to London?
So I did like music college. There's a place on the Isle of Wight. It's really funny because the Isle of Wight didn't have like loads of different things back then, but it did have an amazing music college, and it still does. Amazing. But I mean, like it's just funny because it was like, okay, like most people end up going to like is it Brocklehurst? I don't know. They go to like mainland colleges to just basically have access to all the different courses. But on the Isle of Wight, I was able to go and study music full time at Platform One. So they do kind of like GCSE level, A level equivalents, and they do a degree, and I think they now do a master's.
Oh, amazing.
Which is really cool. And to be honest, I learned so much when I was there, because we would study sort of all sorts of, like, obviously we'd have like tuition on our instruments, and then you'd have like music and society, music industry, oral perception, things like that. So you'd be studying all sorts of aspects and studio and stuff like that. And it was amazing, because also it was like free to go as well, which is great, because I guess it meant that more people were able to access it than it being like a expensive paid thing, I guess, like uni. But to answer the question, I was probably like 18, I think. I'd like finished school, finished my A-level equivalents, and then went to uni.
It's great that they had so many different music avenues in that course. Like, I think a lot of us, when we were younger, it was kind of like classical music or no music in school, in like primary school and secondary school. So it's great that they had the different types as well, I think. People are interested in so many different routes.
I think also one of the reasons why, like, I guess I did a bit of classical music and stuff. I did a bit of like, I did sort of like, what was it, vocals, like grade 8 and grade 5 of theory.
Amazing.
Stuff. Yeah, it was amazing, but it's also a really expensive thing to do. And also, like, if I don't know, like, because of like being dyslexic and sort of neurodivergent, I actually found like so much anxiety and like the kind of reading the music kind of thing and following all these different things, and it was just quite stressful. But I think what I loved about kind of the more like music tech based things and production is that it was always kind of like using your ears, always kind of like people in a BTEC in music would be maybe like listening to a song and like orally decoding what's going on and organizing the sounds in that way, which is an amazing skill to be able to do.
Yeah.
And not that people only do that in either or.
One or the other.
Most commonly, you see it happen. And then with like a more classical setting, people will be like sight reading things straight off a sheet and not thinking about it. And I think because of like accessibility as well, just like being able to listen to something on YouTube or on the radio and like sing it back, you know, you can kind of just do that anywhere. Obviously, you have to have the skills and the ability to do it. But it's just something that I think I really enjoyed in terms of like that kind of avenue of going down the kind of, I guess, like music production and kind of popular music areas. Like there's a lot of kind of just doing stuff by ear, and you don't necessarily need to have to understand or read music or have all these other like kind of quite deep educational things and stuff. I don't know.
I completely agree with you. It's kind of, it encourages creativity a bit more because you're not in this strict regime of having to like do what scales, sight reading. Kind of, I think production, you're more encouraged to do your own thing and create, which is kind of a bit more freeing. And when you came to London, did you start working straight away, or?
I think it's slightly frozen.
Hello?
Hey.
I'm sorry, back. I think I got cut off there. Of course, the first time my Wi-Fi goes down in a week is in the middle of a webinar. Sorry about that. So I don't know if you heard that. So I was just saying, when you first moved to London, did you start working straight away, or did you study in London as well?
Yeah, so I went from Isle of Wight so from there I went to Goldsmiths Uni.
Oh, amazing.
I'd applied to a few different courses. Yeah, it's funny really, because I'd applied to 5 different unis. I got offers from all of them, which was amazing.
Amazing.
Well, especially as someone that, to be honest, like I didn't have much academic confidence. I mean, I very much like, I did really well in the kind of like drama, music areas and things like that. And I kind of like scraped by in like maths, English and sciences, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it was like when I got that kind of thing, I was like, wow, like actually maybe I can do academic things. And I had accepted, and I was almost definitely going to go to Bath Spa Uni at the time. And then yeah, I basically learned that the course would be like 8 hours a day or something like that. There'd be like loads of education and things like that going on. Um, and that actually scared me off a lot. I was like, gosh, like, that's going to be like a lot of information to try and process. And also, like, I want to be able to like go into the things that I'm most interested in and kind of like just fixate on those. And then I kind of all of a sudden got this final offer through from Goldsmiths, and I was like, this has put such a spanner in the works. I remember we were like in the car on the Isle of Wight driving home, and I was like, oh dear, like my entire like next 3-year plan changed. And it was just like, oh God, like, how am I gonna, I don't even know. So I ended up accepting the offer for Goldsmiths. I don't know if like people know the difference between there's like Bath Spa, which is like green fields, like fresh air, that kind of thing, very serene and calming. So my parents were like, great, like fantastic. And then as soon as I was like Goldsmiths, they were like, is that it's very grey there. It's very sort of grey and like loud, and you know, and I'm just
in
like,
the middle of a city.
That's the place I think I should go to. Yeah. So
but you have to do the course that makes most sense for you, I suppose. Otherwise,
well, and it was the bigger picture. I think the thing that excited me is the fact that there are going to be so many people obviously moving to London, and there's going to be a lot of things to explore, not only with the course, but just like in my personal life, or also going to like music things and industry people and like the main studios, things like that. It's like, it was still very much like you have to be in London kind of thing, and you want to kind of meet as many people as you can. So I just bit the bullet and went with that. So I ended up moving to Goldsmiths. My bedroom used to be opposite New Cross Gate Station, so I kind of feel like I lived at Goldsmiths. It was like right next door. But yeah,
if you're gonna go, you may as well be right in it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like it.
And what kind of projects did they have you doing on the course, or what was the kind of course content for anyone that would be interested in doing something?
So I think something with Goldsmiths that was quite interesting is that a lot of people turn up as singer-songwriters, or they've dabbled in a bit of production. You know, they're kind of maybe self-producing, because I mean, everyone kind of hits that thing, I find, like quite often where people, they have this like worry of, oh, like if I don't write my own songs, if I have people help, like then I have to figure out royalties and have to figure out all these different things. Or, you know, there's all these kind of little mini horror stories that you hear, or like having management and all these things that when you're starting out, you sometimes end up not really fully understanding what's happening. People might be taking advantage of you also because you're young. It's that like people just see it as like you could be their kind of project that they get to kind of shape, because maybe their project didn't work, or they lost the thing for it, or loads of other reasons. But yeah, essentially there's all that kind of like naivety in a sense that when I look back, I'm just like, gosh, like, yeah, it was a stressful time. But being on the course, like I said, you have like a lot of singer-songwriters and producers. Generally what happens is people come in and they're kind of playing the music that they've made, obviously up until that point in their life. And the course at Goldsmiths, like one of the first things that you do is, or when I was there was a course called Folk and Urban Music. And it kind of really, it kind of pulls apart everything that you've ever like done. So I kind of went in with quite like I guess like from the Isle of Wight, it's quite folky, singer-songwritery, acoustic guitar, that kind of thing. And they kind of like, by the end of the first year, I was like, I've not got any music again. I've like, don't know what I'm doing. But essentially you go through all these different like courses and all these different things that kind of make you think about stuff and pull apart what you're doing, why you think you're doing it, you know, where it's coming from, and why it's, you know, like what is it that makes you and stuff like that. And like in the second year, you end up, like most people end up making something really like a kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It just gets very like noisy and ambient, and like people are really like pulling themselves apart over like what's their new sound, what they're doing. And by third year, you end up doing like a final performance of like where you're at. And usually they're pretty awesome performances, to be honest. Like that's completely change.
That's amazing though, because I think you learn the most through experimenting and like kind of listening to different kinds of music or trying different things, and then you come around to whatever your style is. So I think that's probably a sign it's a great course if people are doing that.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like from the kind of the songwriting like side of, I think the thing with Goldsmiths is it's more like the social political awareness of what you're doing, why you're doing it, like who inspires you, like what kind of artists, what like you know, you might be looking into like musicologists, or kind of like looking into like sonic arts, or you know, like there's so many aspects of the course that kind of make you go, wow, like this is amazing. Like you won't be taught how to write a song,
Yeah,
because there's you can't really be taught that. You need to essentially have something to say as an artist, and then like you need to go from there. You can't be kind of told what to say.
yeah.
Which is why I guess it takes such a long time for people to kind of figure that out. And it's good with the course to kind of help you break it down and reimagine kind of what you're doing. I feel like Goldsmiths basically gave me like a lot of tools, and it made me question a lot of things as to why I'm doing them. And yeah, if I could do them differently and kind of reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think most of us just go to uni and we're just focused on the technical aspects, like how to run Pro Tools, but that whole why you're doing something is as important, if not more important, than how you're doing it, I suppose.
Definitely. Well, that's a really cool thing, because like one of the things as well, when I was at Goldsmiths, like I'd never really heard of sonic art, but I was always into like documenting and capturing things. And so I used to, I have like all these like little like memos and things on my iPhone. And I think one cool thing with Goldsmiths is because it wasn't always about making the best recording quality thing and submitting that to get a first. It's what's your concept, where did it come from? And so a lot of my work kind of incorporated a lot of like found sounds and things like that I'd recorded on my phone or cut up, or all sorts, because it was more important the concept of where it came from, and that kind of forms the sound as well. So like sometimes things were kind of like quite DIY or lo-fi, or like kind of scrappy, but then other times, like, you know, you could also achieve, you know, by going to the studio there. They also had a studio, which was the main reason I actually went there was because they have like a commercial level studio, and it's like probably one of the best university studios I've ever seen. So, you know, you kind of have access to like dabbling in the things that you want to explore, but also you have access to the equipment that you probably can't get at like some small studios even. But yeah, I was just saying about the kind of found sound stuff. Yeah, just kind of, I guess that kind of came into my songwriting practice a lot. The kind of awareness. Yeah,
I think it makes it more authentic if you have a concept, rather than just being like, I'm going to make the best track ever, it's going to be the best produced track. If you have a concept or an idea or a thought behind it, I think it just makes it more believable.
Well, that's it. Like I've like recently just done like a mix with someone that he'd sent me the tracks, and he'd recorded it over lockdown with a few friends. And the one track that runs throughout the whole Pro Tool session is just this like guitar loop that he'd recorded on his phone. Like and it's just this like, it's even got a few like clicks and pops of where it started and stopped, and it's just like that has so much character, you know. It's that kind of thing that if we were to re-record it at Strong Room, like
it wouldn't have the same vibe.
It would sound lovely, but we'd be trying to create with like amazing gear. We'd be trying to recreate that sound, which I don't think you can't do, because obviously you can do that. But it just made so much sense with his project. And like it also like the attitude and the way that people want to do things. It's kind of like sometimes you have to follow that artist thing because it's like a unique thing to them. And it's like this guy likes the documentation style of this. And therefore, if we overwrite it with like being in the studio, that's not where it came about. The rest of it, lots of little bits came from different areas as well. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's acknowledging that side of things. And I guess I'm really fortunate that I've started as a songwriter and I've ended up kind of in the kind of music production side of things. I feel like, yeah, I'm very aware of those sorts of elements that are quite important to people, and their kind of context and the reason for why they make what they make is like a thing I always think about, I guess, when making decisions.
No, I think that's the most important thing to think about in that kind of role, is like what the artist wants to achieve, I suppose. But what I did want to ask, was it in Goldsmiths that you started working with the Omni Collective? Or that's reaching out?
Yeah, well, what happened is so Goldsmiths run a student engineer program, basically. So when you're in your second year of uni, if you're really interested in studio stuff, you can basically the studio have this setup where they'll reach out to students that are already on the course, say in their second year, and there'll be like maybe 10 students or something that are interested in recording opportunities. So what happens is whenever a student books, say, Studio One, what will happen is an email will be sent out to those 10 other students saying, oh, this student so-and-so has like requested a student engineer. Are you free on this day at this time to do this session? And you do it for free, but you're basically, the studio's like giving you like jobs in the sense of like, as a part of your course. So it sounds really bad, it's like they're giving you jobs, but it's kind of like, if you're wanting to get better and you've not really got any experience under your belt and you're at uni, it's a really good time to be like, I want to like try recording drums or try doing this or that. And that other student wouldn't be able to do it without your help anyway, even if it's just an extra pair of hands. So you both kind of fumble through the session and figure out what you're doing.
That's incredible. Yeah. Like, I've never heard of a uni doing that before. Most of my friends who studied music production, they leave and they're like, okay, so how do I get a job? So I think creating that network already while you're still studying is like amazing.
Well, that's it. And then from there, they kind of do like a few, maybe in like the following year, so your third year of uni, it's kind of like you do it in your own time sort of thing. So outside of uni, it's like, you know, someone might book like the studio in the evening, so you kind of get involved and you can do that. But then there's sometimes like opportunities to assist engineers that are already working at the studio. And then from there, what can happen is there's a professional practice scheme which you can apply to do. It's like a couple years, and it's difficult because it's kind of sometimes you're assisting sessions, sometimes you're in the office kind of like doing bookings and things like that. So it's one of those classic jobs in music where you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. But yeah, it was definitely one of those that it allowed me to have access to like booking, for example, having like studio bookings on a weekend. So when I wasn't working in the week, I could this was like a paid job after uni. So basically I'd had like a year out in industry and then I had applied for this job. But yeah, so basically, yeah, you can apply to do either the live sound one or the studio one. And from there, you basically have like so many hours a week, and you'll come in and you'll be doing like, I guess, like helping a lot of the students with their bookings. So sometimes you'll get like a master student or an undergrad be like, I want to do this drum recording, that drum recording, and you're basically working on that session, and there might be a student engineer there, so you're overall kind of seeing over that, if you see, so you're kind of responsible for that situation. But yeah, it's cool because it does again open your eyes to like loads of different situations. And is that how you started building up your network as a freelance like engineer and mix engineer? Was it through those sessions you kind of started to get your own paid work and you kind of went from there? Or do you remember your first like gig as a professional engineer or mix engineer? Yeah, so it's interesting really because so at Goldsmiths, when I was actually studying at Goldsmiths, I was doing like live sound for the Students' Union. So I've very much started as like, I came to the uni like as a singer-songwriter, and then kind of got into more like production stuff. And then I'd already had a bit of a background in sound engineering from when I was back on Isle of Wight, because I used to end up doing my own sound sometimes for gigs because it was so bad. So I ended up
That's amazing. So, yeah, get out of my way, I'll do it myself.
I did. I was really lucky. Like from like doing gigs and stuff, like me and my dad went halves on a little PA system. So I just basically had a PA system when I was like 16.
That's incredible.
And I could do sound for myself and sound for other people. So it's like I ended up like, that was my kind of like uni job. It was a mixture of like recording people out of my own bedroom in like halls, and then like doing like live sound for the Students' Union. That was kind of like my first things. And my first mic as well I bought was the SEX1, which is like classic. It's classic, like it's like £80 condenser vocal mic into like my little M Audio M track thing. But yeah, it was just I think, have you frozen? I think you might have frozen again. I'm not sure.
I'm so sorry, Max. I don't know
No
what is going
worries.
on with my Wi-Fi today. This is a disaster. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Uh, so what did I miss there? Excuse me.
No, no worries. I was just saying, so yeah, so you're saying about what was the kind of first engineering job, and I think it was difficult to put my finger on it because essentially like from the minute I got to Goldsmiths, I'd like bought like a little mic and I was already like recording people out of my room until I kind of gained access to the recording studio, which you had to kind of show a certain sort of level of like, do you understand how this plugs in and that does that? And you kind of have to like basically book in an induction, and it takes like a few weeks to get doing that. So from the get-go I was like, I'm just gonna like start recording stuff in my bedroom, and I was working with mates already on my course that I've met in like freshers week, so just kind of like straight into it. And then that's when I was saying I also then got the students union job, and I did that for like a couple years, and then I was like doing the student engineering, and then after that I had like a year out in, I say year out, I'd finished my degree, and was working freelance doing like some kind of like, I don't know what you call them. They're just kind of like random jobs in terms of like I might have been like doing. So I worked in like a cheese and champagne place in Greenwich.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was like a month and a half, and then like another place that was like a month and a half. I just had all these like random jobs that kind of, I tried to keep doing music jobs and just slotting in these other jobs around it. But then after that kind of year, I then applied for the job at Goldsmiths because it was like a stable kind of, this is how many hours a week you're doing, this is what you're going to learn. In the week, you essentially help master students and students, you run workshops, which is where Omni kind of, like Omni had already started up before I got the job there. And that was with Francine and Joy, who I was working with. So they both work on the Omni Collective. And I was just kind of like occasionally there, sometimes popped in and like helped out with a workshop. But yeah, from there it's kind of just, yeah, it was all sorts of jobs. And then on the weekends, we could book. So one of the perks of the job is that on the weekend you can book studio time, bring people in, do sessions, and that's when I did start bringing in, I guess it was mates. Like I was just going to a lot of gigs at the time, and just always like, if you want to come to the studio, we can, we can record this. We've got a great space, and I had the ability to be like, I can make bookings at this studio and get like a good price so that I could start building up with people.
A network.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like going in being like, so I can record you for £500.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you could do it much cheaper and kind of like a downtime rate. And that was like a massive help in being able to like get people in a studio, get learning, get doing stuff. But yeah, from there it just kind of went into, I guess, like industry stuff. I'd already made a few connections in that year after I graduated, so it was more like the studio job at Goldsmiths was just kind of like it's like an ongoing kind of building on stuff, having a space to record that I knew. But yeah, in that time I'd met Charlie Deacon Davies, so that's when we started, like we just kept bumping into each other at different events, and then over time we've just kind of like, yeah, we've just essentially like started coming up with our own sort of collectives and having other people involved as well. So there's like 4 of us involved in this new collective that we're setting up, and yeah, it's just kind of like snowball effects from there, really.
Yeah, and could you tell us a bit about the Trans Creative Collective and like what your goals and your aims are?
Sure. So yeah, exactly. It's basically, there's myself, Charlie Deacon Davies, Jessie Faye, and Nelly Rodriguez, and basically we all kind of came up with this idea of setting up a space that's kind of founded by sort of trans identifying people, because I guess there's a lot of platforms that we'd sort of noticed, like basically about 5 years ago, when me and Charlie met, we were at different events, like BBC events or kind of just like more like low-key events, and we were like, this is amazing that there's this platform for women to get opportunities and do things. And then over time people started to kind of like be more aware of like non-binary as a thing and stuff like that. But we wanted to, like, I don't know, we just kind of felt sometimes like being in those spaces, it was quite like, it could be quite, for me, it was quite like dysphoria inducing, because ultimately I would have wanted to have like more spaces that might have like more trans masculine people or just trans people or
Yeah.
people that I could look up to and be like, he's doing it, or like they're doing it, or you know what I mean? It was just kind of wasn't really there. So I guess it's that kind of thing we realized over time that it would probably be us that need to do something, because we couldn't find like anything that was doing these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we kind of very recently, it was like Trans Day of Visibility in March, and we had this idea that we'd basically create like a mini documentary, just kind of like celebrating and showing like a fully sort of trans, identifying like cross intersectionalities, kind of like it was all very organic, the way that everyone sort of came together, and we're all mates. And yeah, we just had this idea, and we spoke to Abbey Road about it, and ended up like doing a recording session in Studio 3 and making a documentary talking about like trans things, but also studio stuff. And yeah, just kind of went from there. And then we were like, well, maybe we should do something again. Maybe we should like make a thing with this. And, you know, people seem to really take to it. And we've like, yeah, I don't know, we just kind of thought it was the interesting.
I really wanted to ask you about the documentary, because I watched it recently and it's amazing. But you planned the whole thing in a week and a half, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'll put that down to Charlie's like crazy ADHD brain. Like they did literally were just like, so we're gonna do all these different things, and I was just there like, okay, cool, like okay. Okay. But yeah, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we'd managed to sort of put a call out for an artist, pull together our team of like engineers, producers, artists, like camera crew, everyone. We managed to like pull everyone together, come up with this idea, be like planning stuff. And yeah, we got featured in Gay Times, and we were obviously like, yeah, made this crazy mini documentary which has been put out on Abbey Road's socials. And yeah, it was pretty crazy, to be honest. I don't think I'd ever been a part of something that happened so quickly.
Yeah. I think that's
yeah.
probably good in a way. You don't have time to overthink anything. Like I heard you mention in the doc that it felt really like kind of organic and natural, and probably having to do it in that short a time probably it kind of helped that in a way, because you don't have time to kind of like overanalyze every aspect.
Do, isn't it?
Yeah, just get on with it.
Like, we need to do this. Oh, what about this idea? Not this time. Like, you just have to go for it. But
did you come out with a finished mastered track from that? Is that available online or anything? Or is it...
I think so. I'm not sure with the ins and outs as to
no worries.
If we can I don't know how it is.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, yeah, we did like an entire day, and we tracked loads of vocals and had loads of backing vocals and things like that. We were kind of mainly focusing on like I guess like lead vocal and production and stuff like that, because obviously like having a day in the studio, if we gotten a whole band in, it would have been absolutely crazy. Yeah. But yeah, no, the documentary is actually available on Abbey Road's socials. I should probably send a link to that.
Yes, we're going to send out an email after this session with a few links, because you've also given us a link for people to sign up for more information about the Trans Creative Collective. So I think the guys are sending out the link to that, and we're also going to send out a follow-up email with some more links of stuff you've mentioned today.
Nice.
So don't worry about that. Have the Trans Creative Collective got any plans for 2022 yet, or is it kind of COVID dependent so far?
Yeah, so that's the thing. We've been scheming. We've got plans. So we've been speaking with a studio called 1087 up in Tottenham Hale, roughly. There, very north of where I am. So yeah, we've been sort of coming up with some ideas. We're going to have some workshops and socials. I think we've got sort of like 3 events that we've been sort of planning and sort of just like hashing out ideas for. I guess like with those events, what we're trying to do is obviously bring together, we wanted to create like a safe space for people that are not only in music, but it's like a multidisciplinary, like it's across the kind of board of creatives. So what we found when we did the Abbey Road thing, when we were doing a call out for people to be the artist, we basically had a lot of people that were like, oh, I'm an artist, I do this, or I do drag, or I'm a photographer, or, you know, like all sorts of people that do loads of different things. So
it's not just music.
Well, exactly. We wanted to create like a space where people that, you know, people can try out, maybe it'd be like they want to try out new pronouns or things like that, like a social, but it'd be a safe space, but also an opportunity to meet other like-minded people. Yeah, so it's just kind of like this real kind of like mashup of creatives and sort of queer people and allies, you know. So it's just
building up that network, and then it'll kind of go from there.
It's something that I think that quite early on when I moved to London, I just felt like I didn't have like access to. I didn't really find that community, and not that it wasn't out there, but I just remember attending a lot of like, at the time I was attending a lot of like women's events, because I was like non-binary for like 5 years, and I just never felt like represented. I never felt like seen or heard. I just went so quiet in those spaces. And I just got to a point where I felt so dysphoric seeing like loads of women in the space and being like, I really don't connect to this.
Yeah.
I stopped going. And that's when with this, it's like, how can we make a space that feels, you know, safe? And, you know, for people that are neurodivergent as well, like we want our events to have like a crash zone where it's like, okay, you can like have 10 minutes out in that zone, like, and, you know, things to be not so that it's all in one room and it's all going on. It's kind of split up. So we're going to have like audio stuff maybe in one room and like visual things in another room. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's just trying to make a space and take up a bit of space that kind of hasn't been taken up or led by people of like the first-hand experience, I guess.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense, because even moving to a new city is lonely enough. Like, like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of, I think what you're doing is incredible, and just giving people a space to even connect with each other. And like to share information and help each other out. I think it's amazing. And the other group, you're on the board of directors for Engineering Equality in Brighton. Could you tell us a little bit about what they do and what kind of stuff they get involved in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the Engineering Equality came about. So basically there's a studio in Brighton called Small Pond. So basically Omni have connections with Small Pond, and they were getting funding for this thing that they'd come up with. They're like, okay, cool, we're doing this, like we're going to be basically having free like audio production mixing workshops for women and trans identifying people and non-binary people. And that's when my friend Joy reached out to me and was just like, do you want to be a part of this thing that we're doing? And I was like, well, obviously, like, this is amazing, this is really cool, like we're still in a lockdown, this is like January gone. And it was just one of those where it's just kind of like, January was such, I don't know about everyone else, but it was just so bleak. It was so bleak, because it was like we all knew that things were going to be like in lockdown until like April or something, like we were still like
10 years.
Well, exactly, it's just, it felt like it, but we were still under this illusion of like, cool, we know that things aren't going to be, you know, changing for the foreseeable. So kind of having that like 6-week period of like, I had 10 people that I was mentoring, and they're all, it's amazing like seeing where people were at and where they are now, and like the songs that they've mixed and produced, or the panels that they're now on and doing talks for. And you know, it's wicked to think that like I was able to like help people navigate those spaces. I think it was pretty awesome. But yeah, the idea is that it was a free workshop delivered by it was at the time Small Pond and Omni that were delivering a free course for people of those identities. It's kind of it, really. It's so simple, but it was amazing.
I was wanted to ask you about the mentoring thing. Is that something people can reach out online if they were interested in getting mentoring? Is that something they could kind of like look up with the Engineering Equality online and kind of get involved that way? Or how does the whole mentoring process work? How does someone find a mentor, essentially?
Sure. So I can, in the document that I'm putting together, like different resources, I'll put a link into the Engineering Equality website. But yeah, it's still very early days. I literally don't actually know when the next round is. I just know that
no worries.
I'd imagine it's going to be a similar time to what, you know, sort of like last year, maybe early next year. But there's no dates that I've got just yet. But I do know that it will be, again, like it should be free, and it should be kind of like similar to the last event, but bigger and better, and hopefully we'll find more funding to do more things. I really can't say too much, but
no, fair, completely fair.
Definitely, I'll put the website or there's whatever details I've got for it. It's funny because both these things are at such early stages, but it's so exciting because I just know that from the responses that we've had from the first like documentary Abbey Road, and then the first round of the mentoring with engineering quality, like it was just taken so well. I think we had like 80 to 100 applicants for the small pond one. Like that's just so many people.
Insane. And it just shows you the need for it. Like
it's crazy. It's more people than I had on my course at uni. Like, I think I had like 50 people in my class. Same. You know what I mean? It's
incredible.
Like, it's free as well, and it's fantastic because I don't know. I just think it's a great way of learning, because I don't think it's difficult with unis and stuff like that. It's not. So, you know, you learn certain things from uni, and you can learn certain things from being out on a job or in with a mentor. Like you're going to get different kinds of life experiences.
Yeah.
Which are helpful in different ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to toot your horn too much, but you do give a lot back in terms of you try and get involved in as many things. Do you find that helps you? Has that helped you on your own, kind of like with your own experience, or what was your reasoning for getting involved with so many of these things?
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. I kind of feel like you kind of get to a point where you're like, I feel like I want to give back to like a place, like you want to give something back to somewhere that you've taken so much from. And I feel like just kind of, like it's quite inspiring, like giving back into with music. It's just kind of, I kind of feel it with like, you know, engineering or mixing. It's like I'm not going to be the artist for it, but I'm giving something some love. I'm giving it that kind of like detail and attention that it wants, and to make something, you know, better or to collaborate and make something bigger than it would have been before. And that's the same in like a social setting of like kind of my own personal kind of experience of being trans. It's like I kind of came to London with this idea. I was like, I'm gonna like meet loads of people. I'm gonna be able to like explore things. I'm gonna have my own space, and you know, won't have to have all the kind of like triggers or things from back home, just the way that school was and stuff like that. And just growing up to that point can be quite difficult. So I guess it was trying to create a space that I'd taken so much, like I was so inspired by the women's events and things I'd been to, but because of my own identity and experience, I was like, this should be making me feel great.
Yeah.
It made me feel great. It makes me feel worse, but it is, I can see why it's so great for the people that are really enjoying this.
Yeah.
How can
where is our space?
Yeah, exactly. And through like creating these different spaces, or being a part of like being the mentor that I didn't feel I ever was able to access, like, or see on panels doing talks, like seeing someone that is doing that and being like, cool, like they're like trans, they're out about it, they're open about it, they're, you know, they're kind of doing their own thing. It's kind of reassuring to just see that existence, because I honestly can't tell you like who I would look up to in terms of like all round person. I don't have like someone that I'm like, oh, this trans guy so and so is like amazing, or, you know, I don't have that. And I guess it's trying to see what, I don't know, without it sounding weird, like trying to fulfill that role or be it, maybe, you know,
or
like,
even help. If you even help one person, I think we'll like. Yeah. I was going to ask you as well, obviously we have a crazy far way to go, but since you moved to London, have you seen any positive changes in terms of the music industry, or do you think we're still at a standstill?
No, I mean, I think nothing really ever stays completely still. Like things are always ever changing, and I think that even in the time that I've been in the industry, it's things like when I was working at Goldsmiths, it was cool because Joy, I noticed I speak about Joy so much. Joy's an amazing engineer, mix engineer as well. Yeah, they work with Omni, so you can probably find them on Omni if you go to their website. But yeah, so Joy was like speaking to me one day at Goldsmiths, and we were talking about pronouns and things that would make like me more comfortable at the studio. First thing, it was really nice having someone that wasn't trans coming up to me and being like, how can we make things less stressful for you? And I was like, wow, like you've considered the fact that I'm stressed when I'm getting misgendered, which makes a lot of sense. So we kind of had this we had this chat, and Joy came up with this idea of like, on all email sign-offs at the studio, we'd have our name and our pronouns, whether or not you're cisgender, which is someone who is born and assigned male at birth and lives as male, for example. So yeah, basically cis people or trans people, everyone would kind of sign off their email with like their preferred name and pronouns. And that was a great act, because it just essentially meant that we were normalizing the thing that we're all putting our pronouns. And for the average, like maybe the average kind of older person, they might kind of be like, what is this and stuff. But it's kind of like, I guess sometimes you have to implement these ideas for people to go, actually, this makes a lot of sense, or like, I've never thought about this before. So it is kind of sometimes trying to take that step and implement it. But yeah, I do feel lucky in that the studios I've worked in, it's not always me having to push for things, which is great, because sometimes when you're going through something, it's really hard to also be proactive on it, because sometimes you need a bit of distance from it in order to process and be around it. So I've also had like similar experiences like here, where like a few months back I was like misgendered, and my friend kind of like stepped in at the time and was just like, oh, like Max is a guy. Like, have this kind of awkward conversation where it's just kind of like, and like vacant, like had gone when it happened, and then like came back. It was just so triggering, and I didn't realize it would be so triggering, because I wasn't ready for it, essentially. But I think that's the thing, is like having a supportive kind of workforce around you, and people that are for you as well. It's amazing. Like that is like one thing I would say is like, if you do know someone that is trans or non-binary of any sort of in any way, like just asking them like what would make their life a bit easier, like what might help them in stuff. I don't know, like some people don't want to discuss it, but you
said this thing yesterday that really stuck with me. You were like, people are afraid of making mistakes, so they just avoid the topic altogether. But I think at this stage we all need to suck it up and like just like kind of get engaged and get educated. Like that was something that was in my head for like hours after you said it, because people like some people are not malicious, they're just afraid, and it's kind of like you need to get yourself informed and at least try.
Absolutely. It's better to like, so this is, I mean, this is like a really important one, because I get it a lot with like family and stuff like that, where you saying to someone, like someone might be like worried that sometimes what happens is someone will be going, maybe like a cisgender person might be saying, oh, what you don't understand is that like it takes time to understand you've changed your name or your pronouns or something like that. And it's like, the thing is, we're not all that different. We're quite similar. And the reality is, you're telling a person who's of trans identity, who probably has like a few other trans friends, so they've probably like got 5 times the amount of people that they're having to learn new names and pronouns for, that they're still making loads of mistakes, like within the community and with, and just in life. Like people do that. People make mistakes all the time. It's where it's coming from is what I always sort of try to remind people is, if you're not doing it maliciously, which you're probably not, then people will forgive. Like people will understand and they'll appreciate that you're trying. I think that's the best thing though, is just always ask and always try. If you don't know someone's pronouns, or you don't know, if there is a preferred name, that they would like to use, always ask, because that gives someone the opportunity to say something that they probably don't have the confidence to just outright say, oh, I'm changing my name, or I don't like that pronoun. Like sometimes if you kind of bring it up as a topic, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what people say when they're given a platform to speak.
I think the whole strong room, everyone email kind of thing is a very simple and easy way to try and eliminate some of that kind of like having to, you don't want to have to speak up for yourself all the time. Like, you don't want to always have to be like the one kind of being the pro.
Sorry, I just lost you there. You're saying don't always be the person speaking out.
I'm so sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, I think I've been ranting on for too long. We had a couple of amazing questions come in from social media and stuff. So we had one come in for any advice for someone who is looking to find work in a studio like Strong Room, how to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. The way I actually got working at Strong Room was because of another studio, and that's the kind of knock-on effect of, yeah, but how did you get into that studio? Obviously I can only speak from my own experience in that I essentially just wanted to get off the Isle of Wight and be in London, because that's where I was like, I'm gonna try and make things happen there. But so for me, it's like I was obviously at uni, and then from uni I took as many different like opportunities within the uni that they had. So that was like the live sound thing, it was a studio thing. So at this point I was working at Goldsmiths at the studio, as like a, I guess as like as like an engineer there. And basically on the weekends I was booking out studio time and taking in bands that I'd gone to gigs and I'd watched them play, and I was like, oh, you know, I've got access to the studio, like we can record there and do these things. So I was posting quite a lot on Instagram, and basically the studio manager at the time, also the technical manager, but yeah, so Jake, who works at Strong Room, was like commenting on things, just being like, oh, this is amazing, like, you know, this is really cool, like, or like commenting like really nerdy stuff basically. And so it got to a point where I actually just privately messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, by the way, and I was like, there was like a jokey thing of like, I knew that I was about to do the thing that everyone does, where it's like, if there's ever a chance, or, you know, a thing like that. So it's kind of like, he'd seen me like doing lots of things, and then he was like, oh, I was actually going to ask you to come in and like do some stuff or whatever. So, you know, basically it's just like I think when it always kind of like listening out, and like if someone's kind of like, oh, you should come and hang out, we've got a Christmas party, or I know it's a bit difficult with COVID, but often if there's like social events, or someone's like, oh, you should come down and do this, or oh, we're going to be at that thing next week, try and go to those things, try and be at those events, because it's not just standing out in the studio. Like I posted pictures of stuff not because I was looking to get a job at another studio, I was doing it to like hopefully get, you know, other people to like message me and be like, yeah, let's do stuff. But yeah, I guess it kind of, because I was posting consistently on social media, I guess it meant that other studios saw what I was doing, because I was also tagging that studio. But I think that for getting jobs and things like that, the best thing you could do, if you've got a mate or a friend of a friend that's like building a studio or has like a kind of production space, that's one of the best bets, is like going in and around there, and like going to loads of gigs, essentially, just even open mics. Like I've honestly, like when I first came to London, I'd speak to someone on the street and be like, I really like what you're doing, do you want to like do some vocal recording in the studio?
I was just going to say, it sounds like you don't sleep, so you just work all day and then go to gigs at night.
I'm not very good at sleep, but I'm trying to. I don't caffeinate anymore.
Oh wow, I can't give up coffee. I wish I could. We have another question from Kursat. I hope I'm saying your name right. Sorry if I'm not. So I'm not sure if you've worked at all with Dolby Atmos music or spatial audio, but he said people's music listening habits have changed a lot, and almost everyone is listening to music with headphones and mobile phones. In this context, what do you think about Dolby Atmos and spatial audio? Have you listened too much? Have you dabbled?
So I actually haven't done much with Dolby Atmos. I mean, I guess like, I think my parents' TV has it. I think it's quite interesting. I don't have any like strong opinions on it. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've not, because I guess it's more of like I have this like regular anxiety of one day, like we won't just be mixing like stereo, like people will constantly want like surround sound mixes. But I mean, they're pretty cool. Like I feel like it's from like a career pathway, like mixing point, it's like I'm just like trying to focus on normal stereo stuff. But like I think, yeah, the spatial audio is quite interesting. I've actually got a pair of AirPods, and it's weird. It'd be like listening to an audiobook and you turn your head and it moves with you, and you're just there. Like,
it's quite disorientating when you're not used to it the first time. Like, it's just kind of a bit like you got to get your bearings.
It's unusual, but I do think it's a pretty exciting way, and I think it's gonna, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure it's gonna massively take off. I don't know. I'm a bit scared of it in terms of my like professional practice at the minute, but I enjoyed it. I think it's cool. I'm not, yeah, I don't know where I'm at with it, to be honest.
No, fair. And we've like two more, and then I promise I'll let you go. Sorry. We're nearly at the hour. So in the next 5 years or so, have you anything career-wise or collective-wise you'd like to achieve? Is there anything particular, or you just want to keep sorry, that's such a broad question.
There's so many things. Yeah. I guess I'm sort of seeing I'm seeing the Trans Creative Collective taking off. I'm seeing like us having mentoring. I'm seeing maybe we're thinking of doing some kind of like sort of trans consultancy stuff. There's going to hopefully be like a lot more mixing. I'm hoping to work with a lot more, like there's so many people that I've kind of been in contact with who are trans identifying and want to do like a lot more like mixing production work with me. So I'm hoping to get more involved in sort of co-producing, mixing and engineering within the community as well. Like that's something that I think is quite exciting for me, and that the Trans Creative Collective is something that we can kind of lift up those voices and kind of put people on that platform for. But then I guess I mean like I'm just kind of at the minute I'm like preparing for my top surgery, which I'm hoping to have in like maybe like May-ish next year. So I'm kind of in that mindset thing where I'm like trying to save, trying to be going to the gym, trying to be looking after like mental health, physical health, all of that. So it's not just like career as well. It's all those things, and trying to prepare for the moments where I might be out of action, and accepting and understanding that. So
what would the recovery time be for like something like that?
It's like from start to finish, it's probably like I've seen people say about like 12 to 14 weeks.
Yeah, so you really need to mentally prepare.
That's the thing. It's like you can do some things like that, you know, I might still be able to do some like mixing, or might be able to do like, I don't know, I just won't be able to like lift massively heavy things basically. But it's all these different things. I was speaking to Olga Fitzroy the other day about like how I was kind of feeling about that on like the kind of mental health side of things, and she was mentioning about like with like pregnancy leave and things like that, and I was like, this is such a good point. Like it's so good to talk about these things, because there are so many different reasons why people might have to dip in and out of stuff whilst they're trying to build their career.
And that's a scary thing in the music industry. You feel like you need to be going 90 like 100 like 24 hours a day, like
so I think it's just that kind of trying to have that balance as well in amongst the chaos of like the music industry. It's, I think something I've been working on quite a lot is trying to see the industry, like seeing it as like there's this thing that I'm involved in. Sometimes I'm in it, sometimes I'm like, it exists here, but there's other aspects of my life that I have to check in with in order to make myself even better for that, and to make myself, you know, even better for this, I need to give time. So it's kind of trying to, as you get older, kind of seeing these different things, and trying to get a balance. It's very difficult.
It's hard,
but to be honest, it's seeing the collectives take off. Kind of just ideally, I just really want people to be able to access vocational things for free. And like, I think that's what these collectives kind of bring, is a safe space, hopefully, for people that are allies or people of experience can be a part of, and for things to just be kind of less like elitist, in the sense of, you know, if you can't afford to move to London and you can't go to a London uni, you can't do things like there's people back home that are, you know, like they weren't able to come to London and do uni. I was able to do that. And it's like, you know, that's meant I've made all these connections and I'm doing this talk now, and there's other things, and it's like there's some people that haven't been able to do that for various reasons, and then there's like a whole hierarchy of different like kind of weird capitalist reasons why things happen and don't. And it's just it sucks, because you can't, you lose talent, you essentially lose talent. And
it's like where you're
pockets, you know,
where you're from and what your background is determines whether you get opportunities or access to these things, which is mind-boggling.
I just feel so lucky as well for like what I have been able to have and do. Even though some aspects of my life haven't been particularly straightforward, I feel extremely lucky in terms of being able to get to where I've gotten to now. And I do think that it would be amazing to be able to create those opportunities for other people that maybe don't have that, and kind of just like pull people in and be like, look, here's all the information, here's all the stuff, like what do you need, you know? and being able to try and help kind of link people up. That's something I think I've always kind of been quite passionate about, is linking people up. But yeah.
To be honest, I think what you're doing is really, really inspiring on a whole. And I feel like I could talk to you all day. But I should probably let you get back to your session that you're working on. But I just want to say a massive thank you for coming to talk to us today and giving us your time. And just again, a quick note that we will be sending out an email with some of the links to some of the stuff Max has discussed today for anyone who wants to check out or get some more information. But yeah, thanks again, Max. And thanks everyone for joining today.
Amazing. Thanks again, everyone, for having me on board. It's been amazing to chat with you.
Hey.